Welcome to Designed for the Creative Mind, a podcast for interior designers and creative entrepreneurs to run their business with purpose, efficiency, and passion. Because while every design is different, the process should remain the same. Prepare yourself for some good conversations with amazing guests, a dash of Jesus, and a touch of the woo-woo, and probably a swear word or two. If you're ready to stop trading your time for money and enjoy your interior design business, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Michelle Lynn. All right. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am so excited that you're here, although I know I say that every single time, but this podcast has been so much fun for me. I didn't have any idea what I was doing when I started, but today, I am just so excited to introduce to you Kelly Fridline. Yes, the Kelly Fridline. If you haven't heard about her, Kelly is an entrepreneur at heart, but she's a designer through and through. She actually established Kelly Fridline Design in 2017 and has learned the importance of flexibility not only in design, but business planning and goals. In the almost 4 years she's been in business, her focus has changed from primarily interior design to virtual design assistance and renderings. And now she's training fellow creatives in the art of professionally presenting and documenting their projects, which I've been following just kind of from the sidelines and watching Kelly grow this business. And I'm just so tickled to introduce her to you guys. So welcome, Kelly. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Do I sound like a girl crush? I just love watching your business grow. It's been so much fun.
Well, I'm flattered that you've been watching it. It really means a lot.
Well, I love talking business and I love just watching other women succeed. And this is just such a crazy time to be in business. And so I'm excited to introduce you and your services and the platform of different solutions that you offer to interior designers.
Well, I'm excited to share them with you. So
yes.
Ask away. Let's chat.
Let's go. So I guess you've been in business for a little over 4 years, if I'm doing the math right.
Yes.
What made you decide to take the plunge and start your own business instead of working for other designers, architecture firms, and so forth?
So when I graduated from my graduate program, so I have a master's of architecture from Savannah College of Art and Design. And when I graduated from there in 2011, I immediately got a job. Actually, I didn't immediately get a job. I had actually started a program in London, England with NYU, and that ended up not working out. I ended up getting 2 weeks in and realizing it was redoing my second year of architecture school. So I left London, got a job at a historic preservation firm, and then I worked at an architecture firm in Saratoga. And I obviously graduated towards the beautiful middle of the recession. So it was right when it was probably not the best time to graduate. So I learned a lot about how to hustle and make sure that your presentations were amazing so that you wanted to get hired, right? So then I married an Army officer and we moved to Belton, Texas, where I lived for 3 years. And during 2 of those years, I worked for a design build company in Temple, and I learned a ton. It was almost like not undoing, but relearning the industry because they hired me since I had the formal background and the owners did not. They hired me to kind of bring their drawings and elevate the design process a little bit. But I also did a lot of the interior design work. And during that time, I also realized I love this design work and I like doing it myself. And eventually I got up the nerve after working on a project virtually. I was helping family friends. I know everyone's like, don't do that without getting paid. And I actually did get paid, just probably not enough. And I worked on a house addition for friends in Michigan while I was in Texas. And that really elevated my skills and anyone who knows me in chief architect, because I really had to put this entire set together completely on my own and virtually. So I had only been in the house twice at that point in time, one to take measurements and one we were just happened to be up there. So I went and double checked things. But it gave me basically the nudge to go out on my own. And since then, I've really started working in the interior design industry. And I found that within that, there's not only a big disconnect between kind of architects and archispeak and interior designers, but a lot of interior designers are still kind of grasping the technical side of things and the presentation side of things. And especially in the last year and a half, the virtual side has exploded because so many of us are now working from home. And even if you're working in an office, I guarantee most of us are tailoring our presentations to something digital.
Yeah, it's amazing how there's been such a huge pivot.
Huge.
And there's so many opportunities and so many solutions for us to provide to our clients digitally so that they can implement our visions as well, or we can implement it together as needed. So you've kind of niched to more of the virtual design now versus like a full service interior design firm. What would you say are some of the benefits that you have found in like really drilling down? Because I joke that the riches are in the niches, but what's your experience been?
It absolutely is. So when I first started, I was all over the place. I was working on a restaurant in Belton. I was trying to take on local, more of a traditional route of interior design, which again, my background is architecture. So when it comes to furnishings, I was looking up what the heck is a double rub, which I'm sure there are interior designers that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she was looking that up. But again, my background is more of, hey, let's move a wall, let's design a house, let's pick the actual finishes, those sorts of things. And that's where I was really confused. And I jumped on a call with another business coach, Nancy Ganzikoffer, and she basically like gave me this whole spiel of, why are you doing all this? Narrow your focus. And after a few sessions of me bawling because I was so lost and so overwhelmed, she said, you're good at chief architect, focus on that. And I started training, and I remember the first year it was so slow, like trying to get clients coming in to train them. And then eventually within less than a year, it exploded. And the year I basically was on and off maternity leave, which was COVID, most of my income was all training and online consultations. And it was really a savings grace, and it's niched me into, again, that virtual realm.
Well, and I love hearing that Nancy pushed you in that respect, because she'll be on the podcast. I don't know if it'll be before or after we release this, but I think that having a good business coach is somebody who can see the best in you when you're just so overwhelmed and can't see the forest through the trees. And just encourages you to go in the direction that is easy to see from outside. And who would imagine virtual, digital products?
Well, it was so funny too, because when I mentor virtual design assistants and other people that are more service providers to interior designers, a lot of them, when I say, hey, why don't you start teaching people your niche? And they're like, well, why? I don't want them to take my work. One thing that Nancy did a great job at kind of breaking me out of that mindset is, you know, you're going to elevate yourself by teaching others. And there have been times where I'm training interior designers and I'm learning from them in a software that I'm training them in, because they'll ask a question like, oh, no one's asked that before. Let's just see where we go. And it's just,
I know. I love it. I learn stuff on all of our trainings from other designers. And it's just like the same thing is, you know what? There is so much business for all of us. And I think what you're doing elevates the industry. What Nancy's doing elevates the industry. What we're doing here at Design for the Creative Mind elevates the industry. Why can't we all succeed? And I'm the same way. Open book. Just let's get out there and talk about it. And I think that that's why, you know, when I first started my business and was reaching out to other designers asking, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Nobody really answered very much. And I think it's because nobody knows what the hell they're doing. And they're afraid to admit it because we're all supposed to look like we have our shizzle together.
I think that, and I think there's that level, that traditional level from design school where it's like, don't look at my stuff. And it's that kind of competitive feel of I'm being compared to you and I have worked my butt off trying to set this up. So why am I going to, I'm going to make it so that you have to work your butt off and learn the same lessons as I do. And I remember
I heard that a lot.
Yeah. And I was actually amazed when I first started in this industry and went out on my own. I invested in Ivy before they got bought out, like very early on.
Yeah.
And they had a Facebook group, and it was the first Facebook group that was interior design based and professional that I joined. And what I loved about that was how collaborative it was, because I was anticipating, from having been in a more masculine side of the industry, I was like, oh, it's all women. It's going to be really catty. It's going to be like being in middle school again. And it was the opposite. It was actually, I've actually found, and if there's architects listening to this, I'm really sorry, but I actually found in the architecture realm, it's much more cutthroat, much less collaborative in the sense of, hey, I'm here to support you. I think they're a little bit more old school, versus I'm finding that the interior design, even with like their presentations and being on Instagram and social media, it tends to be a little bit more progressive. Hey, this is where this is going, and we've got to do it now.
It's because women should run the country. Like women should run the world, right?
Obviously, we think that.
just by this difference between male and female of the interior design and architecture side. Yeah, no, but I agree. It's nice to see that more people are talking about, I know this, I don't know that. Like you just saying, you didn't know what double rubs were. Yeah, I get it. Hell, I didn't even know what a memo, like what's the term memo? It's a sample piece of fabric. Okay, that's fine. But we all have to start somewhere. And to be able to say that, yeah, it is hard, I think it encourages younger designers. And I don't mean younger in age, I just mean younger in experience in the industry.
Let me interrupt myself to take a quick moment to thank Satinoff Insurance Agency for sponsoring this episode of the Designed for the Creative Mind podcast. Their support and understanding of the interior design, decorating, and home staging industries is unrivaled. Satinoff understands what our businesses do, and they provide insurance that lets me sleep at night. Yep, this is the firm that I use, and they will do the same for your sleep habits and your business too. They're more than an insurance agency, they're an extension of my business. They take care of the worry because they are the experts, which allows me and my team breathing room to do what we do best, design beautiful spaces. You can find their contact information below in the show notes. Give them a call today.
So with that, how did you, or when did you recognize the need for the coaching and mentoring that you do for the virtual design side of the industry?
Well, a lot of it started with, I ended up connecting with another virtual design assistant on a pretty major project. And she had actually been in the industry for, I think it was like 6 or 7 years at that point in time, strictly as a virtual design assistant. And she had some pretty major clients, but I was amazed because she didn't have a contract of any source. She was charging significantly less than what I was, and she hadn't raised her rate in those 5 years. And and to me, it was, hey, you have a design degree, you have some pretty amazing clients. Why are you charging so little for this? And while I was getting to know her and becoming very close to her, I was still getting coached by Nancy, and it was kind of a pay it forward sort of thing where I was getting myself built up, and then I would chat to her about it, and this other VDA, and would bounce things off of each other. And I saw her business completely take off significantly from what it had been before. And then I got to know another aspiring rendering artist. And I remember reaching out to her and saying, what are you doing? Your stuff is beautiful. You need to be charging more. book a training session with me. You should be using Chief Architect, like all this stuff. And I remember her and that was when I was preparing to go on maternity leave too. And I think she was charging $30 an hour at that time. And she was posting on all these groups that she was doing $30 an hour. This isn't the original one. This is the second VDA. And I just was like, this is insane. You're not in a third world country. You're trying to pay bills, and she's located in Connecticut. I'm like, you don't live in a cheap area. And so she booked a session with me because my thought was, hey, I'll have you do my chief architect work and whatever while I'm on maternity leave. And during that time period, I started mentoring her. And it was more of a, hey, am I going to be able to help someone so that when I do come back, I can start doing this on a full level? And now in less than 18 months, she is now one of the top charging virtual design assistants.
I love that.
She's close to hitting 6 figures this year.
Girl, I got goosebumps hearing that. It's just, and props to you for just like taking somebody under your wing and helping them succeed. It's just
it is probably spirit. One of the greatest feelings. It's, and that's one of the things I love about the training as well that I do with Chief Architect is I not only train, a lot of it comes down to consulting too. So there's interior designers that say, hey, I need to know Chief Architect, but I'm also doing a kitchen and bath project and it's just not quite my niche, but I don't want to miss out on it. So then they'll book a training session with me and we'll just walk through the space planning and go over all of that. And it just feels really good to know that I'm helping designers, whether they're designer to designer service providers or they're the end users working with the client.
Right. That's so amazing. And it's so needed in the industry. It's like they might not need a full-time, full-on coach or full-on program, but having that ability to take your design knowledge and give it to them for that project as you walk them through it. Not only are you helping them succeed in that project and the client gets the best result, but you're propelling their career. And that's just such a blessing, such a blessing. And the fact that you're not afraid to talk about money, because that's like, no.
Oh no. I'm like, no.
Enough.
There are colleagues of mine that are very set on, within the virtual industry that are very set on telling people, based off your experience, you should only be charging this. To me, it's, hey, how much are your bills and how much do you need to make sure that your business stays open and to make it actually be profitable? Because you're not Van Gogh. Don't cut your ear off. Actually make some money. And I put together like a whole calculator sort of thing at one point in time that I send to my VDA mentees. And I say, hey, do this calculation, based off of everything that you bill out for yourself, plus your personal stuff. So whether you're married or you're not married, what do you need to make? And then, you can either divide it so that you can figure out how many hours you need to work based off of how much you're thinking you want to pay per hourly versus, hey, if you work 20 hours a week, let's say, how much do you need to charge? And I think that's a mindset that a lot of people forget. And there's a book called Profit First as well. That is such a savings grace. Yeah, yes. To me, it's like when I hear somebody say that they're charging less than $50 an hour, and I'm sure there's interior designers that are like, I can't afford to hire someone who's charging less than that. Okay, but could you pay your bills off of $25 an hour or $30 in the United States? Could you pay your bills if you are technically only paying yourself $15 an hour?
And you're not working 45, 50, 60, 80 hours a week. It's like you have to have a quality of life. That's what I mean. It's like you'd have to work 80 hours a week in order to make ends meet in a general sense, and then be able to then have your buffer. You're like, what happens if COVID hits again? Or the whole world shuts down for a month or two. Just in a year or two, but
I know it's crazy.
We've had a couple months of less work, but and Profit First is amazing. I'm working on getting somebody with a good, strong Profit First knowledge to be a master coach in my ascension after the Interior Design Business Bakery, because you have to get your arms around your financials. And once you have your foundation, then you keep tweaking it and understanding how to manage your money. Your money is your numbers are what tells you a lot of your decisions. Should I go left or right? Well, the numbers will tell you. Should I invest in this advertisement? And it's just such a foreign factor to designers, I think.
I think the big thing is a lot of designers and virtual service providers that I found have a tendency to, especially when they're first starting out and you have so little money coming in potentially, right, is understanding what an investment is. And they're so scared to spend money. And it's like, well, you have to spend money to make money. I remember when I sat down for that initial 50-minute consult with Nancy, and I'm sure you have clients that do the same thing, Michelle, and she did her pitch. At the very end of that 15 minutes, she's like, okay, this is what you can do. This is how you can work with me. And I just remember being like, there's no way in hell I can afford working this. But there was that little bug in my head. There was just, my conscience said, you'll figure it out. Just do it. And I also kept thinking, my husband's going to kill me if he finds out how much of my income is going to go to this.
I hear that a lot.
But she was absolutely right. She's like, you just need to raise your rate to this. I think I was charging $65 an hour at that point in time. And she's like, you have a master's of architecture. You finished all your hours. Like, do you understand what your value is? And within the first month, I could afford her just by doing what she said.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, but I think also people have to be given permission.
Right.
Yeah. And especially, we're joking that women should rule the world, but oftentimes it's because we don't have the confidence to raise our rates until somebody says, raise your damn rates. And then you might go kicking and screaming, but because your coach is making you do it,
it didn't, it was, I was still kicking and screaming. And it actually was, I raised my rate and then she kept saying, keep going, raise it again in a few months. And I was really apprehensive. And I had a designer who has since passed away reach out to me on Facebook. She was a pretty well-known designer. And she said, what do you charge? And I told her, I think I charged $75 an hour. Like I couldn't get up the guts to raise it more. And when she said, wow, that's super reasonable. I'm like, if someone's telling me my rate is super reasonable, then it's too reasonable.
And I think it's because you help designers make money. It's an investment. It's not an expense, because that's the way I look at an investment is like, if you're going to spend this money, like you did on your coach, Nancy, if you're going to spend the money, she's not an expense because she's helping you make money. Right. Your services help interior designers make money.
Exactly. I tell my mentees that I work with, I said, you have to remember that technically you are a luxury service of a luxury service, because an interior designer can hire in-house if they want to, right? But this gives them the ability to work with somebody and get some of their processes in place. And that's what your knowledge is doing before they make that in-house investment. You're not under their umbrella, you're under your own umbrella. There's certain things that come into play about working virtually for other people.
So with that, what services are you offering, or what options do designers have to use you and your mentees? Like if I were to lose Debbie and Megan, God forbid, because they are the backbone of the business, and I had to do all the design myself, like how could I use you? How can I outsource? Because half the time people are afraid that they lose control.
Right. So the way that I work, right, is I offer virtual design assistant and consulting directly. That's my service. I also mentor virtual design assistants and rendering artists and anyone who's trying to niche into the virtual service to service provider. And the way that would work is they just reach out to them. At this point, we are actually, depending on when this launches, we are actually launching it's called Liaise for Interior Design. It's going to be a directory for interior designers to find their virtual business partners. So whether that's a virtual design assistant, someone who specializes in sourcing, a virtual bookkeeper, we're working on that entire list so that there's that one place. There's no more asking in all these Facebook groups, hey, does anybody do this? And you get 50 rendering artists posting the same images over and over again. But the way that you would work and my services would be virtual design assistants directly through me, rendering artists, design consulting. I also have through the virtual design mentor.com we also have training. So whether it's training in software or one-on-one mentoring with myself about how to get yourself set up as a virtual industry partner, or Dubsado, we have a Dubsado guru to help you with that. SketchUp. We also have courses. We just added a interior designer course teaching interior designers and rendering artists how to use Enscape with SketchUp.
And I'd never heard of that.
I honestly hadn't either until one of my virtual design assistant mentees started posting a bunch of her renderings. And I was like, this is insane. And she told me about Maria, and Maria's work is gorgeous.
Huh. Yeah. That's half the fun of being the host on this podcast. Is I always learn something fun. Noodling around on your website. I was like, I've never heard of this. And it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Y'all, this podcast episode was made possible in part by Foyer, a lightning-fast interior design software that creates photorealistic renderings. I'm not kidding. You can barely tell that it's not a real room. So why leave your beautiful designs up to the imagination of your client when you can show them what their space is going to look like? You will sign more clients and get more approvals with this software. It's powered by artificial intelligence, and I'll vouch for its ease because if I can do it, anybody can, because y'all know that my design team are the ones who do all the work. Find them in the show notes.
So how are you getting your clients? Like, are you finding that your networking is bringing people to you? Are they finding you searching? Like, where
I think it's a mix. So ironically, a lot of my clients come through my Kelly Fridline design website, and that's SEO related. I've written a ton of blogs, and I hired a copywriter who helped me during downtimes by writing blogs for me when I'm like, I just don't know anything about this, but it needs to be on here. Just go for it. Otherwise, it 100% is networking. Whether it is being on a coaching group with other designers, whether it is making sure I'm present in Facebook groups, I'm available to chat, or people are in my Facebook group, or I've been on webinars. I have made sure at the beginning of COVID, I did basically an intro to eDesign with the eDesign Tribe founders. And that brought a lot of people forward as well. The key is put yourself out there. And I think the thing with the virtual side of things is so many people who work behind their computer and don't really do client facing as much, they tend to be very introverted. And it's very hard for them to say, oh, well, let me break out of that comfort zone. Yeah. And that's where one of the things I've really done is I've presented a networking group for virtually based and digitally based designers and service providers. And that way they get to know each other. And I think that's so much more valuable in many cases than a lot of times the one-on-one is, because they learn that they're not alone.
Yes, the community.
And it's, hey, yeah, you'll be in a Zoom call with 6 other people and 5 of them will all offer the same service as you, but you all have different skill sets and different specialties. So since that, those people who were on those initial networking calls with me and groups, their businesses have exploded because they have 6 other people that are rooting for them. And if somebody asks and they're busy, hey, here's someone who can take that on. And it's so important.
That's one of my biggest, when you're soapbox right now is, you know what? A rising tide lifts all ships, lifts all boats. And I love seeing in my free Facebook group, as well as in my paid group, just the encouragement that people give. And I joke, it's like, you don't want just me as your coach. You want the group and you want the community, because I don't know it all. This dynamic of all of these other women and some men that are coming together to answer each other's questions is like exponentially valuable compared to just hiring a single coach, which don't get me wrong, valuable. I think it's fabulous, but I'm not even hardly taking on one-on-one anymore because I see the value in others.
Right. And that's
buy
why
one, get 100 free.
One of the things I found with the networking side of things and doing the Zoom calls too with the groups is for those who are really uncomfortable in front of the camera, it gets them a little bit more comfortable. I'll see when they first join, they'll be really quiet and they'll not be sure how to talk. And then within a few meetings, they are just chatting it up. They're so much more comfortable. They're a little bit more open to doing something like a podcast or a webinar or in many cases, I'll have them doing like Tidbit Tuesdays or something in my group.
Oh, I love that. And nobody understands our business like other designers or other VDAs.
Right.
Like, I don't understand the challenges that you have as a VDA, but other VDAs understand that. And for those of you who don't know what VDA stands for, that's Virtual Design Assistant.
Well, that's what I found too. The other reason I did it was I was one of the first people who I think really kind of came out and said, this is what I am. This is what I'm doing. And there were many more before me, I guarantee it. But I think it just happened to be at the right place at the right time 4 years ago. And where was I going with? It's like one of those things where it's like mom brain.
That's my next question.
But I think that I totally lost it.
That's okay. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
We were talking about networking, the value of networking, and how it's nice to see other people who understand our challenges and who understand just the day-to-day grind. But speaking of day-to-day grind, can't remember shit sometimes because you're a mom. How do you find that work-life balance? Your office is at your house, your kid, it's just like, how?
Oh, my office is now in what would have been the formal living room. So it doesn't even have a door to it.
Oh,
I'm looking at my dining room table right now and I'm thinking like people are supposed to come over for Thanksgiving and I don't want them to have to look at the back of my computer, but okay. Anyways, work-life balance comes down to prioritizing. You know, I have wanted to be an architect since I think I was in 5th or 6th grade. For a long time.
Wow.
And before that, it was a historic, it was a history major and an archaeologist. That's why I was going to go into historic preservation. And it's just, I knew what I wanted to do. And I remember being in college and saying, I love rendering. I loved drawing. So I don't even think I fully learned AutoCAD until I was a junior. So my 3rd out of 5 years in architecture school. And so most of everything I was doing was all completely hand drafted. And I eventually took a Revit class and that helped too, but I loved it. And I remember having a professor saying, learn how to do this because it's going to be something that not very many people are going to know how to do in the future. And I had this vision. I know this is crazy, but I had this vision in my head of what it'd be like to be working in a career. And I said, I want to be able to sit at a desk and I want to be able to draw and do pretty renderings and do some design work. But my hope is that I can work from home and still see my kids and not be gone all the time. And especially after working at an architecture firm where you have to bill 45 hours a week and there'd be midnight to 2 a.m. mornings at an office that I lived 45 minutes away. I said, I can't do this. Won't be sustainable when I have a family. And so now I have an almost 2-year-old son, which that in and of itself, I'm so thankful I worked from home because it took us 3 years to conceive him. And we went through the IUI process and being able to make up my own schedule. And, if I needed to, being pregnant and being a business owner, it can be tough. But then at the same time, it's like, I can go take a nap. I'll worry about this later.
Yes.
But
you're speaking
now
my language.
Yeah, we just started him at Montessori school before we had a nanny. But I think the key is, and my husband is a stickler too. He says, Leo's home from school. It's 4:00. You need to unplug now. And whether I jump back in after he goes to bed, we make sure that we're both present and we're both available for him while he's home. And we did that as much as possible when we had a nanny and he was home as well. And I can tell you, I did training sessions when luckily I had some pretty amazing designers during like the height of the quarantine. but I would have him on my hip and I'm like, move it to the left. Like, and it's just, I am so thankful. That's when I am so thankful that I started motherhood in an interior design industry where I had so many amazing women and fellow moms as my colleagues.
Yes, I think everybody understands and there's not judgment. And if there is, then they're not your clients anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you and your husband are on board with saying, okay, kids home, work is done. Now you're mom, and you just shift your hat, and it's hard, but it's the same thing. Like, I'm on my phone all damn day, Instagram, checking emails, whatever the case may be, if I'm not sitting at my desk, but it's still, as soon as Genevieve comes home, phone's down. It's like, if you need me, sorry, I probably won't see it until tomorrow morning at 6:30.
And it is so hard. My husband works for Ford. And so he for some reason, has a much easier time disconnecting than I do versus myself. I'm like, but, because it's that, I think it's that creative brain when you get into the groove. It's how do I turn it off? My brain is working on it right now.
Right.
But yeah, he's very good at yelling to me from our family room. Kelly, you gotta turn it off now.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have. That means you've got a lot of business and things are working. So, okay. So Kelly, I'm not sure if you know, but so obviously I love to talk about all things business, but I like to have a little bit of fun too. So this next segment, we're going to keep it short just in honor of everybody's time who's listening. It's a rapid fire Q&A. It's nothing is off the table, and it's just so that our guests can get to know you a little bit better. It's just a little bit of fun. So,
okay.
Rules start off easy. Innie or outie belly button?
Innie. Except for when I was pregnant. But I think that's pretty much straight across the board.
Just pops right out. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
What's the last movie you watched?
Mom brain. I don't remember, but it was probably 2 nights ago.
Yeah. I was just talking to my husband. I was like, I don't even remember last night. And it's not because I had too much wine. It's just because it all kind of runs together after a while.
I think it was Logan. My husband wanted us to rewatch Logan.
I've never heard of that.
Which I think is a Marvel movie. It's got the werewolf. I don't know. But yeah, it's we'll start watching movies and he's like, we've watched this 3 times. I'm like, oh, I don't remember. Great.
You're a cheap date. When was the last time you laughed until you almost peed yourself?
Oh gosh, probably last night with my son.
That's always good.
Those raspberries on that belly button just made both of us laugh.
Those are so fun. And little kid laughter is the best.
Yeah.
Oh, dog. Are you a dog or cat person?
I am a dog person. I wouldn't mind a cat, but my husband says, hell no. So.
You have to be a special breed of person. Well, I probably know this answer. When was the last time you took a nap?
Yesterday.
Yeah. I am shocked at how many times I ask that question. People are like, I don't nap. I'm like, how do you survive without at least a 15-minute nap here and there? Better if it's an hour and a half.
I need to try at least. At least while he's at school.
Yeah. Cake or pie?
Pie.
Yeah. And last one is, if there was anything else in the world that you could do other than what you're doing today professionally, what would it be?
There isn't. This is what I've been wanting to do.
I love that. I feel the same way too. And it's just such a nice feeling to be able to say, this is where I'm supposed to be. Yay. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for being on the show. And I know that after this amazing conversation, our audience is going to want to know, how do they find you? So tell everybody listening how they can connect with you.
They can connect with me in multiple places. So I have a business group or a Facebook group called Presentation by Design. It is free. They just have to request to join. I also have a few websites and businesses. So they can reach me at kellyfridlinedesign.com. That's if you want to hire me as a consultant, or if you're interested in training or courses or mentorship, they can go to the it's virtualdesignmentor.com. And then if they're interested in our directory, which we'll be launching in November, or if they're a virtual design assistant or virtual business partner, they can join before we launch it, and so that they can be added to the directory from the start. And that is liaise for interiordesign.com, which is LIAISE, liaise, like a liaison.
Liaise. That's perfect. And we will have all of this in the show notes too, in case you can't remember how to spell liaise.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. I will make sure that they're all in the show notes. And I think, guys, go follow Kelly. I mean, you're doing amazing things, and I'm so excited for you. And I just can't watch to just skulk in the back and watch you grow continually.
Well, I'm so excited that you had me on here. I really appreciate it, Michelle. And I hope I really can personally connect with a lot of your listeners soon.
Absolutely. I'm a huge advocate of outsourcing as much as you possibly can. And therefore, you're just a fresh breath of air. So for those of you who can benefit from even more resources surrounding the business of running your interior design business, join our growing community on Facebook's private group. It's called the Interior Designers Business Launchpad. We'll have that information in the show notes as well. And depending on when we air this, which should be relatively soon, we are having our Interior Design Business Success Summit in Dallas, November 10th, 11th, and 12th. So don't forget to leave a review wherever you're catching this podcast and come check us all out. Until the next podcast, we'll see you soon.
Hey, y'all. If you love the show and find it useful, I would really appreciate it if you would share with your friends and followers. And if you like what you're hearing, want to put a face with a name, and get even more business advice, then join me in my Facebook group, the Interior Designers Business Launchpad. Yeah, I know, it's Facebook. But just come on in for the training and then leave without scrolling your feed. It's fun. I promise you'll enjoy it. And finally, I hear it's good for business to get ratings on your podcasts. So please drop yours on whatever platform you use to listen to this. We're all about community over competition. So let's work on elevating our industry one designer at a time. See you next time.